We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where two of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You are a Pirates fan. I don't think you've got a reason good enough for me to be wearing Met stuff when the Mets are playing the Pirates right now. I don't think I'm gonna go, okay, I see it at the end of your explanation.
I'm gonna put it on Vinny. I'm gonna put it on all the Mets fans. The Pirates won 2 in a row. They fired the manager over the weekend. A new era of Pirates baseball has begun.
GameTime Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome in. A very happy Friday to you now. It is Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, and we are getting ready once again for a couple of important conference championship games here tonight. Game 2, to be exact, at Madison Square Garden, where the New York Knicks were upended in overtime in Game 1 by the Indiana Pacers. Not only did they lose the game, they lost home court advantage here to the Pacers. Can they get even tonight and send it back to Indiana, knotted up at 1 apiece? We'll have a much more on this game coming up over the next hour and 30 minutes or so. We also have an interesting line movement in that game, as the market can't seem to figure out whether or not they like the Knicks wholeheartedly, and will this get up to -7? Or will it continue to drop, maybe even get a 5.5 in the market? The total opened up at 226.5. We're seeing 224.5 across the board. Still some debate on whether or not we are going to get that blistering pace that we got in Game 1, or will the Knicks slow this thing down to a crawl like they have done all season long and not play the Indiana Pacers game? We got a lot on that coming up. We also have Game 1 of the NHL Stanley Cup. I'm sorry, Game 2 of the NHL Western Conference Stanley Cup Championship. Talk about letting it slip through the fingers. If you think what the Knicks did was crazy, up 14 with 2.5 minutes to go. Yep, we had a 3-1 Oilers lead heading into the third period, only to watch Dallas score 5 unanswered goals in the third period. Just could not kill a power play, Edmonton. They played the first and the second period brilliantly. The third, they never came out of the locker room, and it ended up costing them Game 1 of their Western Conference final. Now, we did watch the Florida Panthers dismantle once again the Carolina Hurricanes in their Game 2 last night. They are up 2-0 Boy, the question remains now, are we on the path for a repeat and a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup Finals between the Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers? Well, Edmonton better figure it out here tonight on the road. Again, looking for a split. That's what we're looking for. If I'm an Edmonton Oiler backer, they'll have an opportunity tonight, but they got to play much better than they did in the third period of that game. Pretty much a pick-em price. And the total, though, which closed at 6 in game one, well, we've seen nothing but over money coming in now. 6.5s predominantly in this one. I am not so sure we're going to get that many goals here tonight. Feels like a little more defense coming your way by the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars. I'd be leaning towards the under in this one, but a coin flip game. It could be 2-0 Dallas with heading back to Edmonton, or it can be 1-1. I think this is going to be a great Western Conference final matchup here tonight. A lot of firepower on the ice, a lot of experience on the ice. I think that's going to be a fun one. Then, of course, we've got plenty of Major League Baseball coming away. It is, I believe, Paul Skeens night, in fact, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, as Skeens on the mound at home. Even Skeens knows he's not winning this game. He's going up against Milwaukee and Freddie Peralta, the ace of that staff. It's been rough sledding, not only for Skeens, but it's not exactly been a great stretch of baseball played by the Milwaukee Brewers either. And right now we're seeing a total at 7, with Skeens being that slight favorite at home. He's pitched great. He just can't get any run support. Will that change tonight? Don't know. Freddie Peralta is pretty good in his own right. Also, Hunter Green back on the mound tonight for the Cincinnati Reds. His first game coming off the IL, in which, if you watched him to start the year, he looked just absolutely unhittable. But then again, he had some arm fatigue there. He went on the shelf for a few. Now he is back. He is at home. He gets to take on Matthew Boyd and the Cubs. Low total there. 8 is what we are seeing. Both of these bullpens are rested. And again, Matthew Boyd has been pretty good as a lefty for the Cubs. And if it's the one thing the Reds don't do really, really well, it's hit lefties. However, there is an interesting lefty on the mound at Citi Field coming up here tonight, and that would be Clayton Kershaw back at it for the Dodgers, taking on those New York Mets, who tell me they're not going to be happy to be sleeping in their own beds here tonight. What a rough road trip it was for the New York Mets. They are at Citi Field. They have been extremely good at Citi Field this year. The issues with the Mets have always come in when they hit the road. They've got their surprise ace on the mound in Canning tonight, but it just feels, and I think the market might think, Canning is yet to have one of those, gave up 7 runs in 3 2/3 innings on 8 hits kind of night. Could the Dodgers lineup be that one lineup that can go ahead and maybe beat him up a little bit? It's not a crazy warm night by any stretch in New York. Temperature looks like in the 50s here tonight. So a little bit of rain in the forecast as well. Not ideal hitting conditions tonight, but Kershaw, just his second start, and the first one, well, that didn't go all that well. Could the Mets and the Dodgers be in for an over tonight? Could we be getting runs in this game? I tend to think we might, with these two pitchers on the mound. Yankees are in Colorado, and the books wasted no time in putting a 2.5 as a run line there for the New York Yankees. Can you blame them? Let's be realistic here. It is Colorado, out in Colorado. Schmidt on the mound for the Yankees here tonight. 11.5 is that total, but the 2.5 I thought was interesting there with the spread, and who can blame anybody for wanting to lay that? Also, you've got the Athletics, who can't seem to win a game anytime soon, taking on Philadelphia. They'll be in Sacramento. Wheeler on the mound, and we're looking at a 9.5 with Zach Wheeler on the mound. That means maybe we're expecting the Phillies to do most of the heavy lifting here tonight. That is one of your late games here tonight. You couple that with the other Major League Baseball games, the NHL Game 2 Western Conference Finals, and of course, the Eastern Conference Finals in the association tonight. The Knicks at home looking to bounce back against the Indiana Pacers. Oh, yeah, got a couple of WNBA games as well tonight slated, 4 to be exact. And who better to talk some WNBA as well as the NBA than the coach, James Young. He is going to join us next as we are just getting started on this Friday. It is Game Time Decisions. Buckle up. We got a lot to go over here before we get ready. And the opening tip, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Come back and join us here on the grid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Happy Friday to you as we get ready for a big weekend across the board. Conference championships in both the NBA and the NHL taking center stage. An all-important Game 2 getting ready here, 8 o'clock Eastern time at Madison Square Garden for the New York Knicks. Wow, they let one slip away, but give credit to the Pacers for getting it done. Can they bounce back? I can't think of anybody better to ask about this than the one and only, the coach, James Young in the house, who no doubt probably turned the game off because the Knicks were up 14 with about 2 minutes to go. There was nothing left to watch, Coach, and those mozzarella sticks ain't warming themselves up. So wouldn't you be shocked, though, when you got back to the TV to see we're going to overtime and, wow, the Knicks lost? Do we have a bounce back here tonight, Coach?
Oh, I watched the whole thing and went through a whole bottle of bourbon in the last quarter just watching that lead disappear. Joe, always a pleasure to be on with you. But listen, it was a very, Knicks-esque collapse. We've seen it before against the Pacers. Do I need to remind you to 8 points in 8 seconds by Reggie Miller in 95? No. Do I need to remind you of the 25-point outburst by Reggie Miller in Game 5 of 94? No, because it's already bad memories for me. But obviously, Joe, not a lot of things. Everything went wrong possibly for the Knicks. Poor defensive coverage on 3-pointers, not valuing the clock, missing free throws, missing passes, Jalen Brunson turning into Julius Randle against the Hawks a couple of years ago in the playoffs. But you also got to give Indiana credit, right? Because you got to make shots. You got to make shots. And obviously Aaron Naismith had the best 4 minutes of his life. I mean, good gracious. I mean, it's one of those things like every time he shot the ball, you're like, okay, here goes another one. It's like counting sheep in your sleep. I was counting Aaron Naismith threes in my sleep after that performance. But it sets up a big spot for the Knicks. Listen, folks, and that it should have been over in regulation. This is almost like the old Kevin Durant play in Game 7 against the Bucks all those years ago with Brooklyn. But it's one of those things where if you're the Knicks, I think you got to come out and you got to play the lead. One of the best things I like tonight, and Donnie talked about this before also in the early line, is the Knicks minus 3.5 in the first half. Like, you got to get – because that crowd, after last game, had the air, the breath, the life taken out of them. They need something to cheer about. And I think the fans will rally behind the troops. I like the Knicks in the first half, minus 3.5. And for guys I like in regards to props, I'm going to go to one of the guys that did not play well. And actually, that was OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby's points prop is at 15.5. You look at OG over 3 of the last 4 games. You look at the head-to-head matchups, last 2 versus Indiana. I think you get a big spot. He scored, I think he scored 16 points, went over this, and was 6 of 15, 2 of 8 from 3. He plays better. OG Anunoby over points, and then OG on Anunoby, go find it, over his stocks. Steals plus blocks. He's going to get a couple of steals. He'll probably sneak a block in. I think he had 5 or 6, if I'm not mistaken, in game number 1.
But I gotta believe, and you never know with Thibs, but it feels like the idea that we're going to beat the Pacers at their own game, we're going to try to run up and down the court and get as many buckets in transition as humanly, but that's not going to work. So do we think the Knicks try to slow this thing down tonight? And should we be looking at the under altogether in the game, or can you not trust them?
I don't know if I can trust them, because I just think Indiana's just so good at getting you to play out of pace, at a high pace. I think if you're the Knicks, if you want this game to go under, people think I'm crazy. They got to play Deuce and Mitchell Robinson more. They actually were very good, very effective. To the point where folks forgetting, the Knicks got on that run in the fourth quarter with Brunson on the bench and Deuce in the game, and Mitchell in the game, Mitchell Robinson. So those are guys that are good defenders. They protect the rim. They slow the game down in regards to what they do. So if you see big minutes early on, or honestly, you see maybe foul trouble and these guys have to play, I would be looking at those 2 guys to be heavily involved. The Knicks are going to need them tonight.
Yes, they are. And they're going to need to cut down on the turnovers, Mr. Brunson. We're talking to you. You got 4 WNBA games here tonight, Coach. Which one are you gravitating towards the most here tonight?
Well, there's 2 of them I'm looking at, Joe. First off, I'm looking at the Minnesota Lynx in the first half, minus 9.5 points versus Connecticut Sun. Connecticut Sun, first things first, they're awful. I mean, they're bad. I mean, they're bad. I mean, they miss as many shots as. No, I'm not going to say it because if I get in trouble, I talk about Angel Reese. But they were down 23 points at the half versus the Vegas Aces. The Lynx typically, Joe, are a second half team. So I'm going to think I'm Cheryl Reeve, big spread. Why don't you knock them out early? Give me the Minnesota Lynx minus 9.5 for the first half. And the Sparks minus 11 versus the Valkyries. Valkyries got their first win. They're on the road first time. Sparks beat them by 17 on the road already. Kelsey Plum, a lot of shots for them. Valkyries struggle to score. Give me the Sparks minus the points.
Ooh, like the Sparks minus the points. We watched Minnesota get it handed to them again last night. They'll be heading home. Does a road team win a game in this series, Coach?
Yeah, road team's going to win it between Minnesota and Oklahoma City. I'll tell you right now. It's Julius Randle turned into a damn pumpkin. We knew it was coming. I mean, we knew it was coming, and it came in the third quarter. And I just think, Joe, I just don't think Minnesota's got the number of scores. Like, Minnesota's got to win if Ant and Julius Randle go off, right? OKC can beat you different ways. I think Oklahoma City loses game 3, wins 4, blows them out in 5. It's over in 5.
Woo, over in 5. You heard it there from the one and only the Coach J.Y. I know he's got to get the dry cleaning his Knicks jersey after he threw up all over it in that last game. Is ready, Coach.
No, I threw it in the garbage.
You go throw it up. No, never mind that. Plenty of time here. Knicks coming up, Coach. We appreciate it.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
does.
They
played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I told you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not
a 7th-round
pick. There were 2
who didn't even play good.
Quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
Welcome back in Game Time Decisions on a Friday here. Hard to believe, but here we are, the 23rd of May. I'm Joe Raineri, and we're getting ready, of course, T-minus about 65 minutes or so, Madison Square Garden center stage tonight, when the New York Knicks take on the Indiana Pacers. And the old will it be choke part 2 tonight? A lot of questions being asked, and we'll get all those answers, I think, soon enough here. Will Jalen Brunson carry this team, the Knicks, to a 1-1 series, or will Halliburton get to be even more hated than he already is by the New York Knicks fan base? I love the fact that we got some villains finally in the NBA again. Not everyone is all kumbaya and high-fiving and, we're all getting along. It looks like Halliburton and these Pacers aren't interested in your fans or your fan base in any way, shape, or form. And I think that is great for the NBA. Now, we'll see if Jalen Brunson can punch back, but he better stay out of foul trouble, and he better cut back on those turnovers tonight if the Knicks are going to get it done. I do think Edmonton poised to tie the series up also in the NHL Western Conference Finals in Dallas. A lot of people had Dallas being the team to beat this year out of the West. The Panthers certainly looking like they're going to have an opportunity to defend the Stanley Cup title here, in which they have. But Edmonton, not good. Goaltending has been a concern with Skinner in net. And boy, oh boy, did it rear its ugly head there in the third period in game one. 5 unanswered goals in one period is head-scratching. Will they bounce back here tonight? I still lean towards the under in this one. I do think the Oilers defensively show up and show out in this one in what is a coin flip game. You've got a 2-0 Cincinnati lead over the Cubs already, as it looks like Boyd for the Cubs having a hard time standing up, throwing the ball all into the stands, runners advancing. It's been a mess of a bottom of the first inning. Cincinnati has pushed 2 across right now. No score there with Paul Skeens and Freddie Peralta. That's Milwaukee and Pittsburgh. They are all knotted up 0-0, bottom of the first in that one. And the San Francisco Giants taking on Washington. Gore versus Raup, and no score in the second. And I do believe that Baltimore versus Boston, I believe that was game 2, was supposed to be played here in a couple of minutes, but it does look like that is postponed now. It looks like makeup game to be announced a little bit later. And if I'm Baltimore, I'm probably happy of that fact, given what that score was in the first game was probably as disgusting as it comes, as Devers had a monster game, a grand slam, I think a 2-run homer as well, had a couple of home runs. Bregman ended up being pulled in that game with some, I think it was quad tightness there. So not great news there for the Red Sox. But when you score 18, 19, 20 runs, it's really doesn't make much of a difference. Second game looks like it's postponed here. We are getting ready for the Mets and the Dodgers. Can the Mets turn it around here and start hitting the ball? They'll have to do it against Kershaw tonight. And the Dodgers, while they've had a little rough go of it as of late, also, can they turn it around against Griffin Canning tonight? I think this is going to be an interesting one at Citi Field. A little home cooking for the Mets. They need all the help they can get, but they have delivered at home this year at Citi Field. Will they do it against Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers? And by the way, 3-0. Cincinnati over the Cubs as the runs keep coming across there. So we got much more to talk about. Major League Baseball games coming up. Plenty, actually, of some good pitching battles there. Arizona and St. Louis, I think, is going to be one we should keep an eye on, as well as Chris Sale taking on Nick Pivetta. The Padres are in a funk. Can they bounce out of it against Atlanta? That's a pretty good pitchers battle here tonight with 2 aces on the mound. 8 is your total. I might be looking to go a little first 5 under in that one. 4, as I like the pitching battle. I don't quite trust these lineups at this point in the season. We'll have much more on that. Plus, we'll talk Toronto, Tampa, and of course, much more about the Knicks and the Pacers. Game 2, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Come back and join us. Game Time Decisions, another hour next on the...
your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side
DRS.
with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't
the
that
best
it wasn't as
quarterback
good as
prospect
Quinn
they've ever
Ewers.
got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it be
very
Quinn
clear
Ewers' program?
the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong.
I
It
just
is
told
incorrect.
you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm
you're
buying
doing
him
your
because
thing now
I
where you
expect him to
double
have
down on a
decent
take
season. No, I'm
that
not
is
doing that.
incorrect
The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a 7th-round
There
pick
were two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback
Stop
recruits
it.
in the history
Stop
of the
it.
sport.
Quinn
Vince
Ewers couldn't
Young
even play at
and
Ohio
Quinn
State.
Ewers.
He couldn't even play at
Vince
Ohio
Young
State.
and Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions off and running another hour on this Friday evening. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by. As we've got a loaded slate on the diamond tonight here. Major League Baseball actions. Couple of games already underway. We got a lot more still to get to. The Yankees are in Colorado, so that should be a fun game. And Philadelphia, in fact, who just left Colorado, well, they're in Sacramento getting ready to take on the Athletics, who can't buy themselves a win. Maybe we can buy a few runs in that game. We also have the Knicks-Pacers game 2 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and an interesting one on the ice in Dallas as the Stars get ready to take on the Oilers. Let's talk about that NHL game 2. Let's bring in our good friend, Mr. George Kurtz, in the house. And George, the champion Florida Panthers, defending Stanley Cup, I don't know if I ever told you that, but this defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers are making it look easy in the East. I thought Edmonton was on their way in game 1 to making it look very easy against Dallas. And what in the world was that in the third period? 5 unanswered. Wow. Are we cleaning that up tonight with the Oilers, or do you not trust them here?
Do I not trust them? We'll start with that first. I wouldn't go that far. I think what happened with the Oilers there is they got a little lazy. I think they were counting the win before it was actually in the bag here, because they took 3 straight penalties, right? They took a penalty at the end of the second period, 2 more in the third period, 3 straight, and they were all stick fouls. Those are lazy fouls, right? It was just late because you don't want to skate. And, or you're trying to get your pound of flesh out, whatever you want to call it there. I think they were counting the victory before they actually had won the game. All right, they let one slip away there, which, you don't want to do that to Dallas, especially in game 1, because generally, historically, with this group, they lose game 1, right? They didn't do that to Winnipeg, but they generally struggled in game 1 here. Now they've won game 1. If Edmonton can win tonight, all right, you did what your goal was, right? You want to split in Dallas. You lose tonight, are you really going to beat the Stars 4 out of 5 games? Not seeing that. I want Dallas anyway, but I thought this was going to be a good series. I don't think it's going to be a blowout at all. Certainly not what we're seeing in Florida, Carolina here. But Edmonton, it's not a must-win game tonight, but it's the next I guess the next on the rung there, where they really need to win this. I just don't think they'll win 4 out of 5, even going home for 2 games here. I think they did let one slip away. McDavid and Draisaitl were playing fantastic, and with third period they just took off here. So I think it's going to be a close game here. That being said, if you ask me to bet on Edmonton -104 or -115 Dallas, you give me Dallas at -115. Joe, I'm going to take Dallas. I'm just going to take Dallas. Going to take the over as well here, as I always say here with Edmonton. Same thing as was with Toronto. Either I'm taking the over or I'm not betting the total. I'll take the over.
Can I convince you that Edmonton turns up the heat in on defense here? Maybe not taking as many penalties. Maybe a first period under. Would you sniff that at 1.5 here and expect goals to be a little bit harder to come by?
I mean, I don't trust Skinner. All right, so I'm not going to quite go that direction here. It's when Edmonton Oilers and under, they just that doesn't go together for me. All right, it's like oil and water. Right, it just doesn't go together. It's a dangerous mix that I'm not going to to bank my money on. If anything, I'm taking the over. I'll take the over 1.5 here. Once again, I think it's going to be an over anyway. I think McDavid will be flying tonight. I do think McDavid, by the way, sort of like I was saying with Austin Matthews, like he's got a problem with his hands as well here because he's skating fine, right? He looks great.
Right.
But he's not scoring goals, right? He's just setting people up. He's not scoring goals here. I do like Leon Draisaitl for an anytime goal tonight. I think he scores again here. And then you're looking at, which one of their supporting players. Is it a Zach Hyman night? Is it someone like Connor Brown? How about Evander Kane? Do you want to take a goal? Do you want to take points for those guys? I kind of like to take a player or two on their secondary players to get just a point tonight in the game for Edmonton. Dallas, they have a whole host of players here, right? I do have Rantanen also for an anytime goal. He did not score in game 1, but came pretty close there. So I'm going Rantanen for an anytime goal. Robertson for a point. Like I said, I think there's a million ways you can go in props in this game because I do expect goals to be scored here.
Yeah, I took Edmonton to score the first goal of the game here, too, because something tells me they're going to be throwing some pucks there on net a lot. So should be a good one. That coming up a little bit later. We've got a couple of great Major League Baseball games getting ready to take center stage here. We already have it's Paul Skeens Day. No score there against Freddie Peralta in Pittsburgh against the Brewers. But what about, I think this next one is going to be interesting too. St. Louis remains one of the hotter teams in Major League Baseball, and they got Miles Mikolas on the mound, and he's actually been pretty good his last couple of starts. Zach Gallen got lit up last start, but he's their ace in Arizona. Are we getting in front of St. Louis here?
I mean, St. Louis has been one of the brighter spots this season, right? We didn't expect this from them. They didn't make any moves during the offseason. Remember, they wanted to trade Gray. He turned it down. He has the no trade rights. They wanted to trade Fede. They really couldn't find anybody for him. They wanted to trade Arenado, but no. He only has a list of 5 teams he's willing to go to here, so they weren't able to get rid of him. They were not expecting to play this well. Now, listen, it's Memorial Day. All right, Memorial Day weekend here. Things could certainly change over the next 4 months here. But as for right now, they're playing very well. You said about Zach Gallen, who has not, unless he's facing the Yankees or the Mets, who's dominated those 2 teams, he hasn't really pitched all that well this season. He's not the Zach Gallen. He's certainly not Cy Young Zach Gallen of 2 years ago. All right, Corbin Burns is probably, I would say, is their ace there now. I'm not betting Arizona. That's where I'm going with that. I probably don't trust Mikolas. I took the over. It's only 8. Now, if we don't like Gallen, Mikolas, Arizona can hit. I really don't trust Mikolas to knock down Arizona. I think the over in this game. Like I said, over's 8 -114.
If it ain't broke, let's not fix it, George. Any reason why I'm not continuing to ride the Angels tonight at home against the Marlins? This team's almost at 5. I don't think people realize how good this team has been during this stretch, and they keep playing the bottom level teams. They can beat the Colorados of the world, the Athletics of the world. Can they beat the Marlins of the world here tonight?
And they're doing this without Mike Trout, by the way, who just started running.
I know.
He should be back at some point next week. All right, that's by the way, their record without Mike Trout over the years is not bad. It's not what you think it would be. Like, oh my God, they must be terrible.
Correct.
No, they actually played pretty well without Mike Trout. It's Kikuchi versus Alcantara tonight. I mean, Alcantara pitched okay last time. And when I say that, it's because he wasn't terrible like he was the past 4 or 5 outings. He was okay, but he's nowhere near what we expected him to be. Even coming back from Tommy John, we thought he might be a little slow, but this has been awful here. It's Kikuchi going for the Angels. I would say their best starter here. Yeah, I like the Angels to win. I do, but Can we lay? It's currently minus 156 with the Angels. I mean, how about we take the run line? We're getting plus 130. If they're going to win,
my point.
let's win by 2.
Yep.
I'll take the run line. I'll take the plus 130
I'm
on
with
the run
you.
line. But
Plus
I don't mind
money.
the minus 156, Joe. I don't. I think they win that too.
Yep. If it ain't broke, I am not about fixing it here in any way, shape, or form. There are some other teams, though, that seem to be broke. The Mets are back home tonight. Are we trusting them now at Citi Field, or do the Dodgers come in and just run over?
It's Clayton Kershaw pitching, who I think you and I talked about this before. I don't know if he's pitching in Major League Baseball right now. All right, he's throwing the ball high 80s. Did got racked in his first start last weekend. Now, it is a miserable night here in New York, okay? It's 50 degrees. It's rainy. Whether the rain stops at all by game time, we'll see here. But I see this being a lower scoring game, but I'm not betting on the Dodgers, who have not played all that well this week here. Canning has pitched well for the Mets. He's keeping them in games here. I kind of like the Mets at minus 118.
Bellinger, anytime home run tonight?
Not playing. So at least not starting. So no, I'm not going with Bellinger. But I got the Yankees and Phillies in a parlay, plus 100.
That's the least shocking thing I've heard all week, George. We appreciate it, my man. Game Time Decisions continues.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all. It's
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
All right, welcome back. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network, as we've got about half a dozen games in Major League Baseball underway. The only scoring we have is in Cincinnati, as they've jumped on Matthew Boyd and the Cubs 3-0 there in the bottom of the second. Paul Skeens and Peralta, no score in that one in Pittsburgh. San Francisco and Washington, top of the third, no score there. The Dodgers and the Mets just underway, as is Toronto and Tampa in Tampa with Rasmussen on the mound for the Rays. Let's bring in our good friend, the man we'll pass the baton off to, coming up top of the hour for another great edition of In Game Live tonight here, Scott Wetzel. And Scott, all eyes are going to be on Madison Square Garden for you guys tonight. And man, it looked really good for New York for about 3.5 quarters of that game. And then the wheels fell off. So is it a bounce back? Are they going to slow the tempo down, or does Indiana do what Indiana does and win games on the road and have no problem doing it?
But they just might, Joe. I can't pull the trigger on laying 6 with the Knicks. I just can't. There was a clip that someone sent out on Twitter. You lose the battle. Maybe the Knicks lost the war as well, in that there was a little clip when the Knicks were up 5. They called the timeout. It was 123-118, and you saw Cat and Anunoby and Jalen Brunson going at each other. Someone kind of had to step in. So, yeah, maybe that stuff happens all the time, and maybe it's just no big deal. But I do kind of wonder, the post-game press conference, which I saw, which they had Brunson and Cat together, they weren't exactly seeing eye to eye and looking at each other. So there may be deeper issues than what we think with this Knicks team at this point. I'm going to go conservative in that I think the Knicks can score 116 points and still lose. I don't know if they can score 116 points without winning. So give me the over 115.5 Knicks team total. If you look at the scores from last year, there were a couple of blowouts in which the Knicks won, like 121-91. This is the perfect blowout spot, right? After Indiana took game 1, this is the letdown spot, the zigzag, whatever system you want to call it. So I'm going to go conservative and not lay the 6. I'm not going to go the over 223 because I don't want that to happen. So my thinking is Knicks win, and if that's the case, they'll put 116 points on the board.
Yeah, well, listen, Brunson dropped 43 in overtime, but he also carried 5 fouls for, it felt like almost the entire fourth quarter in overtime. But 29.5 feels... Does that not feel light, 29.5? I mean, if they're going to win this game, he's got to score more than that, doesn't he?
He does, Joe. And look at the games so far this postseason. Does history repeat itself? I tend, and I think most bettors say yes. All right. So Knicks lose game 2 to Detroit. Game 3, they win. He scores 30. Last time I checked, that's more than 29.5. They lose game 5 to Detroit. Game 6, he scores 40. Last time I checked, that's more than 29.5. Game 3, they lose to the Celtics. Game 4, he scores 39. Last time I checked, that's more than 29.5. So after the 3 previous losses, he has bounced back to have good games. That's why win, lose, or draw. Now, they won all those games, but win, lose, or draw, I would be very surprised if Brunson didn't go for 30 tonight. I like that over 29.5.
Yep, I like that one as well. How about on the ice there, Scotty? I mean, talk about total collapse. If you thought what the Knicks did was terrible, what Edmonton did in that third period at Dallas was hilarious. Are they bouncing back here tonight?
I'm going to say yes. I had them, it's kind of my stubborn Polish, Irish, German, and everything else that I am all mixed together. I had Edmonton game 1. They should have won. Yep. They didn't, so I'm going to go right back to Edmonton. It's a pick-up situation. They were actually getting plus 105 in game 1, right? They lose, and now it's a little bit even lower. So people are expecting Edmonton to follow up with a win. I'll buy into that. Dallas has won 7 straight at home. That's a pretty good number, 7 in a row. But Edmonton's been pretty good on the road as well. So give me the Oilers there. You see a pick 'em.
Yeah, I like it at that price there. I think they get that series even, unlike Carolina. That's a totally different one. Mets Dodgers underway, Scotty. I think you and I are in agreement. Kershaw and Canning spells runs for me, even in 58-degree temperatures here at Citi Field tonight. No?
Yeah. We got to do drug testing here at SportsGrid. When I heard our buddy George Kurtz say he loved the under, I'm like, I almost put my foot through the TV set. Are you under with Kershaw? Really? This is not like 2015. This is 2025, George. I mean, he had just the one start. He gave up 5 runs in 4 innings. He wasn't any good. I don't think all of a sudden he's going to turn back into Clayton Kershaw at this point. So he's good for 5 runs, 6 runs, meaning the Mets are good for against him. And the Dodgers are obviously very good. So I don't know how this stays under 8.5. I really don't. So I love the over 8.5 Dodgers Mets today. Just underway.
Let me ask you, the late one there, the Angels, can I interest you in plus money on the run line? If they win, are they winning by more than a run?
I tell you what, we've been on them the last few days. It's not easy laying odds with the LA Angels, right? Minus 150. So maybe that's the way to go. I mean, they've won 7 straight, all without Mike Trout, the most overrated player in the history of sports. So let it roll against a Miami team that's 6-14 on the road. They're not very good at home either, but they're especially bad, Joe, on the road. Every team, no matter how bad they are outside of Colorado, they're always going to have at least one stretch where they're actually playing good baseball. Even the White Sox last year at 1.14 in a row, and they set the record for the worst record in baseball. So maybe this is it for the Angels. Lay the run and a half. They won 7 in a row, 16-6 over. They're scoring a ton of runs. So if you're not comfortable with the minus 1.5, then you lay the 1.5 runs and get odds with LA.
I like it. I'm with you 100% there. Yankees are in Colorado. I'm thinking I saw their first 5 team total at 3.5. How long before they score 4 runs in this game, you think?
Yeah, 2 outs, 1 out, in the first inning. I mean, outside of the obvious, Yankees have one of the best records, Colorado the worst, Joe. There might not be another game where you've had a bigger run differential. Yankees are number 1, plus 95 in run differential. Colorado is minus 159, the worst. So you got the best versus the worst. That's a 254 run differential, and we're in May. Honestly, I don't know if there's been another game that's had a bigger run differential. So lay the run and a half with the Yanks.
You heard it here. All right, Scotty, we're going to see you top of the hour for In-Game Live. We got more Game Time Decisions next on the grid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
He's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not
a 7th-round
There were
pick
2
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterbacks in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers, go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by. Let's welcome back in our good friend Scotty Wetzel. He'll be taking over top of the hour for another great edition of In-Game Live as Madison Square Garden will be electric tonight, to say the least, as the Knicks trying to even up the series against the Pacers. We also have some great Major League Baseball games. Let's run through a few more of these, Scotty, starting with the Texas Rangers taking on the Chicago White Sox. Molly, who has also been a pleasant surprise for the Rangers here. He has been absolutely dealing. And Burke, I don't know, congratulations. Maybe the best pitcher the White Sox have. I don't know what that means. But what are we doing this spot here tonight in Chicago?
Yeah, you could put Molly. We should make a list of guys who need to turn back into the people they really were. I mean, this guy was basically, I won't say a bum, right? But mediocre pitcher, right, at best. This guy's been unbelievable. 5-1, ERA under 2. I mean, he hasn't allowed more than one run in just a couple of games. You got to go Texas, right? I mean, and they've beaten the White Sox 10 straight times. Now, listen, everyone's beaten the White Sox. I get that. But 10 in a row, that dates back to more than just last season. And that goes back a couple of years, right? Because they're not in the same division. So they're not playing each other, 12, 13, 14 times. So they've beaten them 10 straight. They got the better pitcher by far on the hill. They're on the road. They are minus 190 favorites. That kind of stinks. So you want to lay the run and a half, you may want to go there. But how could you possibly put, it's funny. I looked at the records because I said to myself, the White Sox are actually playing like at least halfway decent this year. Not as horrible as last year, but I will say they have the same exact record, 15-35. It's not Colorado Rockies like, and we all know how bad the White Sox turned out last year. So 15-35, I got the best pitcher on the hill, and I got the team that beat the other team 10 in a row. Give me the Texas Rangers, and like I said, if you want to lay the run and a half, go ahead with that.
Yep, get it done. I agree with you on that one. We've got Kansas City, by the way, in Minnesota, taking on the Twins. Pablo Lopez on the mound for Minnesota. This has been a very one-sided history between these two teams.
Well, it hasn't at Minnesota. It's a little quirky, like, old gambling is, Joe. So Minnesota, first off, 13-2 their last 15 games overall. So they're on fire, 27-22. They're 16-7 at home, including 9 straight home wins versus Kansas City at home, 17-3. So automatic you play on Minnesota, right? I will say, just to kind of temper the enthusiasm, last 7 meetings overall, Kansas City is 7-1 against the Twinkies, as we like to call them. But not in Minnesota, where they don't basically win in Minnesota. So give me Minnesota here. Again, you're laying the number with the Lopez on the hill. You got the better pitcher. I mean, 17-3 versus KC at home, and they've won 9 in a row at home overall. So I'll throw out that 7-1 Kansas City record and give me the Twins tonight.
Right, and that one with
8-0 under. 8-0 under, too. Last 8 meetings 8 of them have gone under.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, 7.5 still, too, as well there. I kind of like that. And we all know Kansas City can't score more than 2 runs anyway. So that's how it rolls with them. What did you think, too, by the way? Wheeler taking on the Athletics in Sacramento. Usually don't see a 9.5 as a total with Wheeler pitching. But is it just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Philadelphia all day here?
Yeah, I'm not going to fool around with the over-under. Philadelphia 11-1 under their last 12 road games, but Oakland/Sacramento 17-8 over at home. So that's going to balance each other out. Figure that out. But you got to play the Phillies, right? They've won 7 in a row. A's have lost 9 in a row. They said they've been outscored in that stretch 72-26 by nearly 45, 50 runs. They've been outscored. They sent the whole freaking team down. They brought up their entire basically minor league team today, John. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yep.
So who knows who's actually playing for the A's? Philly's playing great baseball. Well, you can't beat a Colorado, Sacramento A's back-to-back series for Philadelphia. You get things right? So lay the run and a half if you want. I do think they win by a couple of runs with Philadelphia tonight.
You leaning one way or another with Houston and Seattle. 8th consecutive road game for Seattle here tonight.
Yeah, I tell you, they've been winning, though, on the road. 7-2 their last 9 road games. Houston had a nice little 13-4 home game run. I'll take the Astros. That's a pretty good number. That's a lot of games on the road. So give me Houston tonight.
Yeah, you guess I get a little road weary. I think they've lost 2 of the last 3 there. So good stuff there, Scotty. Again, we appreciate it, my man. As always, we'll see you top of the hour for the Knicks and the Pacers. Game Time Decisions continues after this.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side
DRS,
by side
DRS.
with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't
the
that
best
it wasn't as
quarterback
good as
prospect
Quinn
they'd ever
Ewers.
got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it be
very
Quinn
clear
Ewers' program?
the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a seventh-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong.
I
It
just
is
told
incorrect.
you he's going to be number one overall. My whole thing was I'm
you're
buying
doing
him
your
because
thing now
I
where you
expect him
double
to be
down on a
successful.
take
No, I'm
that
not
is
doing that.
incorrect
The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a seventh-round
There were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterbacks
Stop
recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn
Vince
Ewers couldn't
Young
even play at
and
Ohio
Quinn
State.
Ewers.
He couldn't even play at
Vince
Ohio
Young and
State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Also, welcome back Ronald Acuna for the Atlanta Braves. His first game back, and what does he do? First at bat, boom, home run, 1-0 Atlanta right now off of Nick Pivetta, and they are in Atlanta. Padres just can't get out of their own way, but 1-0. Chris Sale on the mound for Atlanta in that one. Also, I believe we got a solo shot from Pittsburgh. They are up 1-0, finally scoring runs for Paul Skeens. Shocker. We'll see how long that lasts against Milwaukee. Let's bring in our good friend Rohit Panaya here is getting ready for the Eastern Conference, Rohit, on tonight at Madison Square Garden. Just a absolute, what was the choke job going on in game one. But I also think I wouldn't necessarily call it a choke job, although Halliburton did. It felt like that's what this Pacers team is. You got to give that team credit for the way they went about that and made the comeback, took it to overtime, and win it. What do we get tonight, though?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Nesmith just really came on, like, was just, unstoppable from deep. We know the Knicks, have had struggles at defending the arc in the past. But I think this is a bounce back spot for them. I think we're seeing a line that might be a little bit too wide, though. I think the Knicks win this one. I don't know if I'm willing to lay, 6 points now that we're looking at as a spread. I think that might be a bit too steep. So I'm looking to target maybe a team total here. I think this Pacers offense has been kind of underrated pretty much the whole playoffs. We saw their team total like extremely low against the Cavs. They were clearing their team total by like 10 plus points every game. They've scored at least 115 points in 9 of 11 playoff games, and we're seeing a team total right now at 110.5 for today. So even without Nesmith going off, they would have eclipsed this in game one. Really tough team to stop, and we know the Knicks have some stoppers, point of attack defenders, guys like Hart, guys like Bridges that can get that done. But the Pacers just have so much depth; they can spread the floor. Halliburton just can dish the ball. And, it says a lot when Brunson and Towns are the Knicks' best players. They're going to be on the floor for 45 minutes, 40 plus minutes, and they're weak defenders. They're guys that can, the Pacers can go after and can get buckets in their end. So I think we're going to see, a decently high scoring one here. I like the over. I like the Pacers team total over, but I do think the Knicks end up getting the win.
It's funny, Ron, because I've been going back and forth with this. In no way, shape, or form should the Knicks be trying to beat the Pacers at the Pacers game. I don't. This should be a half-court game. Force them to slow it down, and that's how you win this. But if the Knicks are looking at this, they're going, "We should have won this game. We did it. We just did." Are we going to get that? Are they going to slow it down? I think it's a recipe for disaster if they keep the pace at what they were playing at.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that too. But even in the Celtics series, it really came down to the fact that the Celtics weren't making their shots because they weren't able to control the tempo in that one either. And it's, the kind of the same thing as like this Tom Thibodeau coach team. When he first took over the Knicks, they were able to control tempo. They were able to slow things down, even at times last year. But the Knicks at some point this season seem to kind of lose that frame of mind. They've been kind of running and gunning with a lot of teams. That's been happening, from about November on, and they can win like that. They can win with Brunson, but I don't think it plays into their strengths at all, especially against a Pacers team that definitely wants to play that style of game.
When Brunson's turning it over 7 times, he's playing way too quick.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. 29 and a half, he dropped 43 in game 1 there. Is it just all Brunson? He's got to score in the 30s if they're going to win this thing, no?
Yeah, I think Brunson's player props are really interesting here. I think the point total is about 29.5 right now. It was bumping up to 30.5, kind of bouncing back and forth. Yeah, he's going to have a big game. You could see that, they had Nesmith on him. They had Nembhard on him. They were trying to throw everything at him, and he was still able to get shots off and score. But yeah, 7 turnovers. He does struggle against the length of those guys. But the big one for me was 5 assists. So he had 5 assists. He only had 6 potential assists, which is crazy low. He usually averages around 12 potential assists per game. And we're seeing his assist prop for this game at 7.5. He's gone under that number in 8 of his last 9 games. This is a number that he just hasn't been even coming close to clearing for the most part. We know that the Pacers have, kind of stepped up their defense over the last few months. But one thing the Pacers defense does, they're not great man defenders necessarily, but they cut off the passing lanes and they do swarm the ball handlers. So they are able to get some pressure. And I don't think he's going to have an easy time eclipsing his assist total. Even if he manages to go over that this game, I'm just going to keep betting this under. I noticed that odds makers were a little bit slow to adjust for Jokic in the last round against the Thunder. They didn't adjust at all, actually. They moved it from 9.5 assists to 8.5 assists. But he kept having like 5-6 assist games, and he just kept cashing the under on that. So I think we're going to see a similar trend with Brunson's here. So I'm betting the under assists for him, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on that number as the series goes on.
Yeah, and foul trouble, too, is going to be an interesting spot here. I know a lot of guys thinking maybe the Knicks come out hot in the first half, but they've been really good, Indiana, in the first half in the playoffs. As an underdog, they punch back. Is that number 3.5 too much, or is it worth taking a look at?
No, I'm leaning towards the Knicks on the first half spread here. They do get off to good starts, especially at home. Average first half scoring margin, I think, of +4 points per game, regular season and playoffs. Pacers have a negative scoring differential in the first half for the most part. So, yeah, they did kind of, step things up over the last couple of rounds, but they haven't always been a great first half team, especially on the road. And then they're taking on a Knicks team that is definitely going to come out fired up. So I like the Knicks, and I like the Knicks first quarter money line as well. I think minus 3.5 is a pretty fair line, and I would be willing to bet that for the Knicks in the first half. But problem is for the Knicks and these Tom Thibodeau coach teams is they tend to wear down as the season goes on, as the game goes on. And I think that's a big reason why, they kind of fourth quarter, you kind of see them start to get tired. You start to see some mistakes, and you start to teams come back. So I think, I think the Knicks do come out to a fast start here. I like them in the first half, but I think the Pacers keep things interesting and definitely stick around in towards the end of the game.
It feels like you mentioned assist with Brunson. It feels like Halliburton a little underpriced in the market too. He had 11 in game 1. I think it's 9 or 9.5 in this one. He's not Brunson. He's not a pure scorer. He gets everyone else involved. Is that where you focus on with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm looking at Halliburton, I like the assists prop for him. I love the turnovers props for him too throughout pretty much the entire playoffs. It's usually sitting at about 1.5. Sometimes it goes up to 2.5. This guy does not turn the ball over, which is incredible for a guy that handles the ball as much as he does. And he went under the 1.5 turnover mark, I think, in like 17 of previous 25 games before the finale against in the last round against blanking for some reason, but the Pacers were taking on the Cavs, and he went just over that number. But for the most part, I mean, the turnovers prop I think has been a great market for Halliburton. He does kind of bounce just around that 10 assist mark, so I might shy away from playing that necessarily. But I do think he has a big game because I think he's a pretty tough player to stop because he's able to pass the ball and distribute and get to the hoop and then find guys on the outside. And like I said, Knicks don't defend the perimeter that well, so he's able to kick the ball out to those perimeter guys. But when he shoots the three and he's knocking them down like he was in game one, he's a real problem.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Fast start and all. Let's see what the Knicks can come up with. You still believe in Rowan at 6 or 7 games in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think game one was insanely tight. I mean, people were even saying, well, the Knicks were up by 12 with 3 minutes remaining or whatever. But the first few quarters were back and forth as well. And it wasn't until the fourth quarter that they even really started to separate at the start of the fourth quarter there. So I think we see this game. We see this series. I think go 7 games. I think these teams are extremely tight. And anytime I'm seeing either of these teams catching maybe 6 points, I'm definitely looking to the underdog because I think we're going to see a really tight series.
Roy PanayaCovers.com, my man. Enjoy the game. We appreciate the time as always. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
does.
They
played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong.
It is incorrect. He's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take
no, I'm not doing that. The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a 7th-round pick
There were 2
who didn't even play good.
Quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on this Friday to SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we're getting ready, of course, conference championships tonight, game 2s in the NBA as well. as the NHL with the Dallas Stars at home trying to take a pretty important 2-0 lead over the Edmonton Oilers before they head back to Edmonton for Game 3. I think that's going to be a fun one here tonight. And, of course, the Knicks and the Pacers. Oh, boy, the Knicks do not want to go to Indiana down 2-0. But if is there anything they can do about it? Let's bring in our good friend Adam Kaufman, who will be covering the game for you here with In Game Live. And I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? Overtime loss as a home favorite. Now you're a favorite again in Game 2. History tells us not great. They don't have a lot of depth, but really they can't go down 2-0, right? So if there's a must win, I guess this is it for the Knicks here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but like the Celtics couldn't go down 2-0, the Cavaliers couldn't go down 2-0. We can name all these teams that went down 2-0. Now, yeah, the response, the logical reply is, okay, but you're naming teams that lost. Sure, I realize that. The thing is, obviously, like these Knicks, I don't think they're the better team to begin with, and that's partially why I bring that up. I said going into the series that I was looking at Indiana, especially at plus money. I felt like the books, Vegas had it wrong. The number was simply wrong, or at least, was overwhelming toward the New York side, which didn't make sense to me. I do think that New York is the right side tonight in the bounce back. Now, I say that speaking out of both sides of my mouth, Joe, because I will be rooting for the Pacers. I want the Pacers. I think Indiana against Oklahoma City in the NBA finals would be a wildly entertaining series, even if it's not so great maybe for major market ratings as it comes to the NBA and its partners. But in terms of this game tonight at MSG, the Knicks, as we know, you've talked all about it, they came so close, so close to winning that Game 1, not just because they led in overtime, but because, as we know, they led by 14 points with about 2.5 minutes to play in that game. And Reggie Miller, yeah, I know he was in the building, but he wasn't on the court. He was on the broadcast. They should have put that thing away. And so this just feels like a get-right spot for the Knicks, who clearly can hang, can play with this team. The logic going in for a lot of people, and I agreed with it, was long series, 6 games, 7 games, whatever it was, that, we were going to get this thing to the brink. And I think Game 1 was a good indicator of what's to come. The biggest thing for New York tonight is, can the Knicks find a way to slow this thing down? Because if it continues at the pace that Indiana would like to play at, which is obviously, near the top of the league, I think they're screwed. I don't think New York can hang in a game that goes like that more often than not.
I mean, I'm with you, and that's been my big thing, is that the Knicks were out of gas because they tried playing the Pacers game. They tried beating the Pacers at the Pacers' own game, and my fear is they're going to be like, we were this close, we should have won it, we can hang with them, and here we go again tonight. So that begs the question, are we correlating who wins this game with the total again? Or if they're not slowing down, are we just going over everything again?
Yeah, so we talked about this going into Game 1, and we were in agreement, obviously, in the correlation. If you liked Indiana, go toward the over in the game. I did, and so I did. But independent of that, even if it was a narrow Knicks win, as it looked like it was going to be there down the stretch of that regulation period, I think that tonight I'd rather lean toward the Pacers team total over, which you can still get around 108.5, 109.5. That to me, I realize overtime is factored in, but both these teams basically put up 140 points the last time out. I think that if I'm going after totals, that's the way that I want to do it, because one, I think Indiana's certainly live to win. How could you not believe that? But second to that, even if it doesn't happen, I think the Pacers do put up points. So I'd rather look toward their over and, see what happens. They're going to be run and gun and shooting the ball, especially from distance, as much as humanly possible.
Who are we focusing on props? If it's the Knicks, is it Brunson and Cat? If it ain't broke, don't fix it with those two. Or should we be looking at somebody else as maybe a change-up for the Knicks, somebody to step in?
Yeah, this last game, obviously, and I'm just, looking at the box score, only 4 guys out of that 135 points. Only 4 guys were in double figures in scoring, and you mentioned, obviously, the big 2. with Brunson and Cat combining for 78 points. I don't know. There's something about Cat that I don't want to go back to him. I feel like that 35 is a real outlier performance. There's size on the other side there with Indy that can contribute to slowing him down. Keep in mind, I don't expect overtime, and so I don't think he gets 17 shots up. But the 25 shots out of Brunson and going for north of 40 points, I don't think that's fluky. Especially with New York down and at home, and like you said, not literally being a must-win, but having the feel of a must-win game, wanting to, take this back to Indiana, making it a best of 5. I think it has to be Brunson's game. And so I'm comfortable going for 30-plus with him. I'm comfortable, sprinkling the ladder up 35, 40 again. Again, he went for 43 last time out. I don't think the emphasis from him is going to be on facilitating. I think it's going to be on scoring. And whether or not he goes for 40-plus again, we'll see. But in terms of getting to the free throw line, that Brunson SGA style foul baiting and, having the 14 free throw tries the last game, I think that we'll see him in double figures there again. I think he puts up 20 plus shots again, and you just have to assume that the production is going to follow.
Yeah, I'm starting to see a 5.5 popping in the marketplace. So it does look like maybe some late Indiana money. I didn't think it would get to 7. But it looks like maybe the Indiana money a little bit late coming in saying, we don't buy it, New York. And again, they can still win the game, the Knicks. But if we're all thinking this is razor thin, man, it feels like this is a couple of points at best here. So should be an awful lot of fun, though. Madison Square Garden, no doubt, has a villain they can hate tonight, and it's worth the price of admission just to watch that, Adam, I think. We'll see you coming up here. That's right. We'll see you coming up on In Game Live as you'll be covering the game tonight here with Scotty Wetzel and company. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Appreciate it. As always, Adams, we'll wrap.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
He's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not
a 7th-round
There were
pick
2
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. We appreciate you hanging with us as we get ready, of course, Coming up top of the hour, we'll pass the baton off as in-game live will take center stage. And get ready. There is nothing like conference championships, and we've got two of them tonight in center stage here, Madison Square Garden, with the New York Knicks and the Pacers. We are starting to see that Pacer money hit the board. Some 5.5s now starting to pop up in the marketplace. The total still hovering around 224, 224.5. I still think the total is correlated to who you might think actually wins this game. It would make no sense to me for the Knicks trying to continue to play up-tempo transition basketball against a team that has way more depth, is younger, and is a better shooting team. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think the Knicks and the under are correlated tonight, if that's the way you're going to look. And I think for sure, we've heard a couple of guys now. Adam Kaufman came on. He talked about the team total over for the Pacers, 109.5 was the number. And we've heard a couple of guys now mention that. Listen, they average way more than that in the playoffs this year, and kind of hard to see them not scoring at least 110 points or more in this game here. So I think the Pacers can absolutely get to the 110 mark or a little more. The Knicks right now, 115.5 is their team total. That means they may not have slowed the tempo down in this one. I think the Knicks need a 110 to 103, 104 kind of game. I think they got to really muck this thing up. I don't like the Knicks having to play transition basketball with these Pacers. So I do think it's going to be close one way or the other, and I wouldn't blame Knicks backers that, heck, if the Knicks win, they're going to win by a mile. If the Pacers win, probably going to be a little bit closer on the road in game two. Either way, I see them getting up and over that 109.5 as a team total in that one. Get ready also in the NHL as Dallas and Edmonton getting ready to go here. You got to love that one. Little trend that has been actually pretty darn profitable so far in the NHL playoffs is looking to back the team that lost the previous game to be the team that scores first in the next game. And that's actually been pretty good. As a matter of fact, that's around 66, 67% in these playoffs this year. So Edmonton, having lost that last game, I like them to score the first goal of this one on the road against Dallas here. The good news is with these two teams, it feels like whoever wins probably going to win on the puck line. And you got a coin toss of a game between Edmonton and Dallas right now. Big advantage in goal for Dallas with Ottinger here. Nobody likes Skinner, which means Edmonton's going to have to score some goals. And I like them to do so here tonight. And instead of taking a puck and a half at -$2, I'd go to the alternate line and lay a puck and a half with Edmonton. I think if Edmonton wins this game, they're going to win it by 2 or more goals in this one and return the favor. Don't forget, of course, the empty netters are definitely in play here during this time of year. I kind of like it. I think Edmonton laying a goal and a half in the alternate market at a good price. I like that what's going to be. I don't see this necessarily being a 2-1 game, but I do think Edmonton will not be giving up 5 goals in a period like they did in game number 1. So anytime I can get Edmonton at a pretty good price like this, I like the firepower. Maybe Draisaitl or McDavid as the first goal of the game to go along with that bet. Not a bad look. So a lot of different ways that you can go about these two conference championship games. The one way you should definitely go is stay right here because we've got in-game live coming up next. And of course, Adam Kaufman, Scott Wetzel, Dave Sherapan, and the crew, they will have you all covered here tonight on the latest odds and what's happening in-game in both those championships, not to mention Major League Baseball. A couple of good games coming up here between Arizona and St. Louis. And don't forget, Yankees are in Colorado. How many runs will they score? Enjoy it. We'll see you again next week on Game Time.